I think we're live. Karibuni jitab kalenjin Joseph eng kebeberwek tugul chomite eng kemboutab rani akotok broadcastani kebebertani Adelaide South Australia mwawech ile inyorchinech ano eng kemboutab rani kakeitu tetutiet noto kichame ikere ne jitab kalenjin kemi episode number 39 kichamegei eng kebebertani Adelaide emetab South Australia akere biik kobun takwek cheterchin akere biik chekakoingian akere biik chekakostreamen ameche ale kakeitu kimi show kimi chakikure Jumambili ngoleb emetab Australia makoloo dakikainik chengeringen keit Jumatatu. So ameche atachak akere Kiddy Kilel, karibu Kiddy Kilech eng ole imi eng kemboutab rani, karibu nisubech kobun kebeberta nebo olimbo Ainamoi. Ameche kityo ale olaikan Ocean Show nebo betutab rani sikosikchigei tibiik chechang kabisa chonyorwech fans chechok kobun takwek cheterchin chomi emetab Australia, chomi olep Adelaide South Australia, kemi ak angot Ian Kipchumba Sulu mwenyewe komi ndani ya show, kimi angot Deno Kirwa biikab olep South Australia, angot Chebi mwenyewe Kennedy Rono, kimi kongoi timitab South Australia. Kongoi kebeberta akere timit squadit nebo olimbo Western Australia. Kongoi kora ang biik chekomi graduation neo kabisa nekatestai eng olimbo emetab Western Australia. Akere biik chekakoingian olaikan Ocean Show nenyo eng betutab rani sikosikchigei tibiik chechang kabisa tikibwatwa kityo amalande kong'ete emetab Kangaroo kebe olimbo emetab the land of the Wright brothers tabwatwa emetab Australia balozi engineer ak Tonya kotikokorom kasit tikokorom mionep corona kabisa kotikokorom eng emetab Australia ngiro cases eng emoneb Australia kotikokerat emet ngiwe Sydney komi lockdown, iwe Victoria lockdown. Ameche kityo kotikibwatyi biik chok eng olimbo mashinani emetab Kenya balozi kakere kara TV anan kanyoru nafas aro what's going on in Kenya. It is so sad. You don't imagine that we are still in the middle of pandemic, but it's upon us to take our personal responsibility and take care of the elderly, take care of our parents. Kenya, we don't have structures like advanced countries like Australia, whereby the government is taking care of their people. Kenya, you are on your own. So take care, be cautious. If you are a young person, you are the one spreading this corona. If you are in town, if it is not necessary for you to go town, please stay at home so that we keep our generation. In the next few months or in the next 3 months, you will still witness this Delta variant is not easy. So guys, everyone, if you are here, this program, share, tell the young people, everyone to take care. Share is not necessary at the moment. There's a lot of movement. It is not necessary. The corona is still present and it will be there for quite some time. So thank you. You are highly welcome. Let's share our show. Let's like. Our guest is present tonight. So before we Balozi Awis habari ya upande wa huko the land of the Wright brothers, we are fine here in Australia. Karibu Balozi, the microphone is yours.
Kongoi Hosea, and to our guest today, Mr. Paul Loren, tunasema karibu sana. And we would like to welcome everybody from wherever you are. Please make sure you share, make sure you like our program as we continue, because we have a very, very, very interesting guest today, my friend, my brother, Mr. Paul Loren. Kabla tujamkaribisha aseme jambo so that you know that he's there, I would like to know how is our sister, kwa sababu leo naona ako Florida. Na naona Hosea huko amekuja mpaka amefika taraja, sijui ni taraja ya California ama ni ya huko Adelaide. So nafikiria kuna daraja pia kule Adelaide, lakini leo naona dada wetu wako upande wa Florida kupitia picture yenye ako. So Janet, nataka useme jambo na utuambie Florida iko namna gani. Columbus is fine, you know, it's warm. But before I even go to Janet, I still would like to remind our people about Corona. Corona is there and it is coming in different variants. So tujichunge. Sadly enough, it's going to be killing a lot of people. But please, if it's not necessary to go to a place, don't go. You don't have to go where you don't have to be. So we can't get tired telling people and reminding people to jichunge kupitia corona. Janet, how is Florida?
Kongoi Balozi. Thank you, Balozi. Thank you, Hosea. And thank you to our special guest for today, Paul. Karibu sana to our episode number 39. You're one of our guest number 39. So karibu to the family. Thank you for making time for us. Mimi, I am doing well. Niko naendelea vizuri. Nashukuru Mungu. We are happy, healthy, taking care of ourselves, and also tukiomba Mungu. Najua unafanya jukumu yako so that when you pray, God anakusaidia. So kimechege some chitugul negasage kogen, I will just message ya leo, just apart from everything that we will be talking about from Paul, who will inspire us and tell us all the great things he has done. We just want to let you know that, hey, Corona is still very, very real. It's actually worse. Ukiangalia charts za Corona at this time, they are really going up back to ile time when it was at the height of everything. So our listeners, tunaomba kabisa kwa moyo mnyenyekevu, tujichunge. Ukienda sherehe, ukienda mahali, vaa mask, sanitize, stay away from people, social distance, and most importantly, after vaccine. Nimesikia vaccine ziko, iko kwa mahospitali, iko Eldoret, iko even in some local hospitals. So go there, tafuta vaccine. So ngotoma gechanjanin, iwe gechanjanin gotko mugakse. If you can find the vaccine, go get it. I know there's still limited doses, but find something for yourself. Matkesha vaccine. So kongoi chitugul kichamege engole Florida. We are doing really well and we thank God, and happy Sunday for everyone.
Thank you, Janet. I think it would be nice for us, ndio tujue mgeni wetu amefika. Paul, tunataka tu usalamie watu kabla hatujaanza program so that people will know that you are there. Paul, karibu.
Yes, asante sana Peter na Janet, Hosea kwa kunikaribisha kwa hii kipindi ya 39. Nashukuru sana. Sisi hapa Texas tuko salama. We are doing fine. Ingawa bado tuko chonjo, tunachunga hii mambo ya corona, tunajaribu kuogopa na kuvaa mask. Wengine wanasema hawataka kuvaa mask. Nataka kuwajulisha Wakenya wenzangu ya kwamba kule nyumbani sisi ni watu ambao tumezoea chanjo ambaye imezuia magonjwa mengi kama polio, TB. Kila mtoto Kenya anajua anapata hiyo chanjo, na maybe shida tunaweza kuwa nayo hatukuwa na hiyo vaccine ya kutosha, but wherever is possible, please get vaccinated, find out, and we urge the government to keep on trying to get more vaccines for everybody. I know maybe it's a huge task because we've got a lot of people. So, the variant is, the pandemic is still live, it's still dangerous, and it's coming in different versions now. Sometimes you don't notice, but it's dropping people, it's killing people. Please be careful, chuchunga kabisa. Yangu ni kushukuru Janet na Hosea pamoja na Peter kwa kunileta kwa hii kipindi. Alafu waje tuongee yale wanauliza, ama kama kuna maswali watu wanataka kujua, tajaribu kufafanua na kueleza. Asanteni.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Lareng. So asanteni Hosea. I want to come back to you, utuambie nani wanatufuata ndio tuanze program. Hosea.
Asante sana Balozi Bita, asante pia mgeni wetu, mgeni mkuu leo ambao tumepata nafasi kumkaribisha. Asante, karibu. It's a great pleasure and honor to host one of the heroes. Tonight is a very, very special day for us as the family of Igerene Jitap Kalenjin. Welcome board, you are part of the family, number 39. So asante sana Mwalimu Benjamin Sugut, tuning in tonight all the way from Sydney, Australia. Dan Chirchir following from Kapseret, Uasin Gishu County. Joshua Boy tune in from India. Asante sana Joshua Boy, Director of Optiven Property Limited, Nairobi. Dori Chelagat, asante sana. Tufuate Ainea Kemboy, tune in from Cyprus, upande wa Europe. So asanteni sana watu. Shadrack Kipchirchir Tirop, asante sana all the way from Colorado. Asante Shadrack. Pia Chona Kipruta, asante sana Chona. Na kuona hapo na watu wengi wanaotufuatilia pia kwa upande wa YouTube. Asanteni sana. Tuendelee kushare, tuendelee like this show so that tufikie watu wengi usiku ya leo. Ngotige testage like ngotige testage share asige TV kejanga bisa ingemba utabrani agere na Chemweno all the way from Queensland, Australia. Asante sana Chemweno. Akpik tugul aktimit nebo Olimba Queensland. Our big Eldoret, Olimba Sisibo, asanteni sana. Akpik Olimba Tuluap Ngetun, at the village of at the mountains of Lion. Agirega tuning in onge shean onge like show. And nyo sige TV kejang engemba utabrani. Karibu Balozi.
Kongoi. Hosea, like we said, our guest Paul Lareng is our guest number 39. Tulitoka upande wa Boston, Massachusetts last week, na tumefika sasa upande wa Texas, a city called El Paso. Tunataka tutaona what do we get from the city of El Paso ama jimbo hii ya Texas. So karibuni nyote. Thank you so much, my brother Paul Lareng, for accepting to join us in our program. So as we continue, as always, we would like to see what is found in Texas. Jimbo ya Texas, tumeambiwa, is the second largest state in United States. It has an area of 268,596 square miles, which is the same as 695,662 kilometers square. Texas iko na population, the second, iko na population ya 29.4 million people, number 2 in the US. GDP ya upande wa Texas state is $1.887 trillion. That is number 2 in the US. Nafikiria California iko mbele, lakini Texas is a very rich state. Per capita income wakigawanya the wealth ya hiyo jimbo, kila mtu anaweza chukua, including Paul Reng, atapata $65,077. So $65,077 in 2019. The city of El Paso, I found out, has a population of about 700,000. That is number 22 in the US. Unaiona pale kwa picture. And then it is number 6 in the state of Texas. It is also known, El Paso is known as the capital of the boots. Yani ukivaa ile boots, ile tunasikia inaitwanga cowboy boots, huko ndio inatoka. So ukivaa hiyo boots, the capital of the boots is El Paso, Texas. It is also, we are told that the first Thanksgiving ambaye tuna celebrate huko America ilifanyika upande wa El Paso in 1598 in a place called San El Sario. Kabla hatujapata ya second, ama the second one upande wa Boston. So the first Thanksgiving ilifanyika huko upande wa El Paso. And then something interesting about El Paso is that the first Hilton Hotel ilianzishwa upande wa El Paso in 1930, ambaye the owners wa Hilton walikuwa wameenda a place called Penthouse, walikuwa wameenda harusi. Kufika huko, they turned it and nicknamed it Hilton. Hilton ikazaliwa. It is actually by the border. Ukicross, nafikiria Ereng ako karibu 1 mile away from the border. Akisahau exit, atajipata Mexico. So it is closer to the Mexico. It is a city by the border. So that is what is found upande wa El Paso, Texas. Texas is a very beautiful state. It's good to visit. Everything in Texas is big. So manyumba, kila kitu huko ni kubwa kubwa, magari, kila kitu is big in Texas. So I'm sure that is why Paul alichoose upande wa Texas, and we will find out as we continue. It's a very beautiful state to visit. When you come to America, make sure you visit upande wa El Paso. Ereng atakukaribisha. So we will continue from there to muulize maswali. And the way we will go, Mr. Paul, we will be asking you questions because we want to follow your journey from your village. I don't know what village it is, where you were born, up to upande wa Texas ambaye tumekupata. And feel free to answer these questions in Kiswahili, English, or hata ukitaka uongee lugha ya nyumbani ni sawa. So unakaribishwa sana, and we will go by ladies first. So tutaanza na, we will start with our sister Janet, and then I will follow, and then Hosea will come. So we'll alternate like that as we follow your journey, because we are interested in your story. So Janet, karibu.
Thank you, Balozi. Thank you so much. And everyone else, if you're still following us, please share with our listeners or with anyone else, so we can all be inspired, so we can all learn something. I'm sure Paul has a lot to share with us. Before we go into asking Paul a few questions, I would like to play a video just to get a synopsis of one of Paul's greatest achievements. So niwaonjeshe tu kidogo, and then we will get going. So dakika moja. Oops.
Olympic champion Paul Ereng, beaten only once over the distance all season and only once in the last 21 races. And the world record holder, Sebastian Coe, meets him here. So this is going to be a great race. Coe, 33 next month. He's been the world record holder for 10 years. That's Peter Brown of West Germany on the inside. Tom McKean, the only man to beat Ereng this season. Ereng there is in 3. That is Jose Luis Barbosa, so consistent, well over 20 times. below 1 minute and 45. Then Abi, the Moroccan, fifth in the 1987 World Championships. Dave Patrick is also on this field as well. So 2 laps off the track. Dave Patrick, given the pacemaking job, but this is going to be an absolutely fascinating shootout between the old and new kings at 800 meters. Patrick in the all red on the wide outside there will try to go out in front. He managed to get there. Barbosa running close up as well, and Coe settled down in third place, with McKean struggling for position and moving forward to fourth. So, Dave Patrick, the pacemaker, coming up to the bell. Barbosa is the only one near him. McKean is in third place. Coe is in fourth. Hockey Clark is in fifth. Ereng making a forward move at this point. And he obviously feels that he doesn't have to stay too close to Coe, and he'll have him in his shoulder and his sights. But Coe is looking to warm up here for the World Cup later in the season. Patrick in the lead. Barbosa is in second place. McKean in third. Coe makes a forward move. 250 meters out. Ereng is getting ever closer to Coe, McKean and Clark. And Ereng is poised to make his challenge. 200 out. The pacemakers die here. Patrick drops out, leaving Barbosa with a long lead. And he's a pretty good runner. And they might well have stolen it here from the bigger names. But here comes Coe with his run towards the outside as Barbosa. There he is, kicks for home. Coe gritting his teeth in second place. McKean there as well. Ereng coming with his run on the outside. Barbosa in the lead. Ereng in second place. McKean third. Coe fourth. The two Britons aren't going to get there. And here comes Ereng to keep up his fabulous record. He wins. Barbosa second. McKean third. Coe fourth. Labi fifth. The time is 1 minute 44.01. And Ereng, it doesn't matter which way you run them, the result is always the same. 1, Paul Ereng, Kenya, Olympic champion. And there he socked it to the world record holder, Sebastian Coe.
I spoke with Ereng, the man you're looking at right there in your...
So that is a short synopsis, but before we Mr. Paul tells us everything about all that race, and congratulations, you're world Olympic champion. And Paul, so we just wanted to start with, who is Paul, and where were you born, what primary school and what secondary school? So let's see where the journey started. Paul, karibu.
Asante sana, Janet. Bring back memories way back. Well, I grew up in Cherangani. I was born in Cherangani way back. And I went to a small or a big primary school actually in the area. There were very few primary schools then, or elementary schools. And the whole location maybe had something like 5 schools. So you had to trek, but I grew up within the school because my father was one of the people working in the school. That's primary school. So I grew up in a school called Sitamani Primary. It's called Sitamani Primary. Then nowadays they call it Suwerua Primary School. And after
county
that,
is that? Which county?
It is in Trans-Nzoia County. Okay. Yeah. Now I think Trans-Nzoia has actually changed itself. There is some part went to Western. There is now actually, we have a new district called Cherangani. It used to be Trans-Nzoia district, which became a county, and then now it's got district. So, and I live in Cherangani. So I grew up in Cherangani. I went to school in Istamani Primary School, Suwerua Secondary Primary School. Then after the KCPE, those days it was called CPE, Certificate of Primary Education. I won a scholarship. I went to Starehe Boys Center in Nairobi as a Form 1 boy. And that's where I actually started running competitively. I met Peter later on in high school, and he was the star of the high school in Kenya because he had already traveled out of the country when he was still in St. Patrick's. Oh. So I grew up there, and after high school, you know, I actually thought about Peter, who had actually already moved to the States, and I was thinking what to do to be able to get where he went. And I think Peter came back to Kenya a year after he was in the US, and we got to talk. And that seed of, you know, coming to the US was planted in my mind. And in 1987, I won another scholarship. I went to the University of Virginia. As a freshman, that's why I started actually serious running. And he ended up in one of those races you see there.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Starting from a small village in Cherangani all the way to Starehe. I would like to know, and I'm sure our listeners are curious, what was your score in primary school to get to Starehe Boys Center, and how did you get that, or how did you get that opportunity? I don't know if it was like now where you're placed in the secondary school or you are handpicked by somebody because of your potential to go to Starehe Boys. So what did you score, and what did you end up scoring in your high school as well?
Yes, Starehe then, and I believe still now, there is a high number of applicants. I believe during my time, we were 7,000 applicants for 200 places. Now, Charity ya kwanza, what was the requirement was that you go and get a letter of recommendation from a local priest. Then you go and get another recommendation letter from the community organizer, the chairman of the community. And then you get a letter of recommendation from the chief. You get a letter of recommendation from the headmaster. So all those people had to vouch something about you, character-wise, academically. Headmaster has to say who you are in a school. Then you send the letter to Starehe. Then they invite you for an interview, one-on-one with the principal. He has to interview 7,000 students.
Wow.
During the holidays. He had to spread them during the year, from first term, during the holiday, first term, second term, and then before KCP, third term, he has to try and fix and interview everybody one-on-one and listen to your story. Now, then they send you back home to school and they tell you, if you pass, then we'll consider you. So there is no guarantee. So you go back and work for it. And then the results come. Then he goes to it's called the Kenya National Examination Council, and he has a list of the people that he thought he was going to pick. It could be maybe 400 of them.
Mm-hmm.
He has a list of 400, 500 people. Some of them he released, he didn't care about them. Maybe they didn't interview well. Then he leaves them aside. Then he takes his list, he goes and checks them, and he picks the 212 top ones.
Wow.
And then he gets a couple of others and send them to other national schools. And that's on grade level, just like he gets the first cream. So in my case, I was actually the first kid in the whole district, number one kid in the district. And I scored all A's that time. We used to do the geography, history, science was called general paper those days.
Mm-hmm.
It was one subject. Nowadays, they do each one of them separately. But we used to do a paper of 100 questions because there were 4 papers in one, which was general paper. And they put everything there. So that was one, and then math and English. So I scored A's in all of them. And I interviewed, and I got a letter, and that was step one of that's how I got to Starehe.
Wow, incredible,
Okay.
Incredible.
So there was no issue of running with me when I went to Starehe, no running, nothing.
So what inspired you to start running in Starehe? I guess you said you had heard of Peter, but Starehe is in Nairobi, Peter was in Iten. Those are very far distance. I don't know how you met or how my information travels or how did you connect?
Yeah, they say curiosity kills the cat. It's very interesting. When you get curious, when you get a kid who is curious in doing things, they will always dig and get the information they need. Or an individual, not even a kid, but any individual that is very curious, always trying to find new stuff and just being interested about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they always figure out how to do it. So I went to Starehe. I found out a couple of things. When we went to Starehe, Starehe exposed you so many things. There was soccer, basketball, hockey, tennis, table tennis. Every sport was available in Starehe. And so we started playing. And then every not holiday, but every weekend, when there was a game in Nairobi, let's say Leopards versus Gor Mahia or whatever, the games master will take some of the kids to watch the game. We go there as a group, and we work actually we work in the stadium. We do something. Maybe we hand over stuff. So that's how I got interested. It's one time we went to Nairobi City Stadium. The Nyayo Stadium was not there. It was City Stadium. We went there, and our work was to carry blocks and take it to them, bring the hurdles, wreck the pits for long jump and triple jump. And we watched the athletes. So me, I'm a kid that is watching these people doing things. And I said, I thought about it, and I thought, well, I got long legs. If I can move these babies so fast like these other guys, I'm sure I'm going to do something about it. And that's how running actually started in me. Just like I have these long legs. What can I do with these long legs? I got to do something. Wow. That was the beginning.
Interesting.
It took time. Then all of a sudden I'm seeing St. Patrick had a very good program in athletics. Nobody else in Kenya had it, except, I don't know, I think Mosocho and Cardinal Otunga and St. Patrick were like the schools that actually pursued sports. Other schools in Kenya did not have the experts in actually impacting on the kids. So some of us became we kept on watching, going and enjoying them, And then we said, we can do things like, and kids are very innovative. They always decide to do something, mimic what's happening. The most famous, actually, before even Peter, there was they're called the Cheriot brothers from St. Patrick's again. Kip Koye Cheriot and Paul Cheriot, Paul. So they used to run, and they were in high school.
It was Kip Koye and Charles.
And Charles Cheriot, yeah? One was Paul and the other one is Charles, correct?
The other one called himself Kip Koye Cheriot, and the other one was Charles Cheriot.
Okay. So I used to watch those guys, and I knew in the high school, they were actually making the Kenya Olympic team, and we were watching them, and I'm saying, these guys supposedly are from high school. How is it possible? And those were the inspirations. And after that, then Peter came, who was actually, I think Peter was one class ahead of me. And that's really like when, like I said, we became serious about it. We started enjoying it and then doing some stuff and competing and then getting to national and then meeting at national. And then we hear the stories. He had traveled to Korea. He became the world junior champion, I think, in 5,000 and all that. And then he came, I saw him start beating the guys who had gone to Olympics, and he was still in high school. And I said, this thing is possible for all of us, and we can do this thing. So that inspiration and curiosity decided, like, this is how I want to do it.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. I think a few things that I have just taken away is curiosity and allowing children to participate or watch something. I think in most of our schools, we don't do that volunteer activities outside of academics, but look at what Starehe instilled in you during that time when you went out to watch a match. Nowadays, you don't even need to go. We have TV. So you can just let the kids watch something. If there are any teachers out there, Shule Yote, definitely highly encourage maybe trying something like this just to inspire students to do something or to dream or to learn something new. One more question, Paul. I guess, how about your family? Can you briefly just tell us about your family? Do you have any siblings, and how was it growing up for you? What was it? What are your most memorable memories or moments?
Yeah, I think the most important thing was one of the memories that I can't forget was when my dad was still alive. I lost my dad when I was actually first grade.
Oh, no.
But for some reason, I wanted to just be like him. I thought he was a very strong guy, and he used to be. I'm the guy who always used to tell me, like, I want you when you walk, I want you to look up. I want you to be a straight-looking man, you know. So I remember that part. And then he died when I was actually first grade, and that impacted me. So I was remained with my mom, and my uncle is from my mother side, who was like the younger brother, and he took care of us. Stayed with us. I have two other siblings, one older sister and a younger one. And so that's our family. My family, when I grew up, was very small, just like those people that I'm talking about, my uncle, my mom, and my two other siblings. They are not in sports like I am, but I think my younger sister would have been even better than myself. And I used to be actually aspired to be like her, because there were things that she could do and I couldn't. And one of them was, when I think about it, she ended up going to Soweto Secondary School, and she used to run cross country for the school. And in the Rift Valley province, she used to place top 10. And I am not a distant guy. I can't run distance for some reason. Maybe, I don't know whether because of the long legs or something, but so I decided I'm going to be a sprinter instead of a long distance runner or middle distance, more on the long middle. So, yeah, but I wanted her to be also, she could have, but, girls' support was different in Kenya those days compared to now. And we are trying, let's say, let me go back a little bit. In 2008, I got a gig with the Standard newspaper whereby I was submitting a column in athletics. And one of the things that I actually realized was that we are not giving women or girls, young girls, more opportunities that the boys have. And I think in Kenya, maybe the boys even are not given those opportunities, but they still have a latitude of exploring and doing things without somebody banging on their back, or like trying to figure out what they're doing and giving them more things to hamper them. So one of the articles I wrote that I was sitting and I was thinking, and I said, wait a minute. And the reason why I wrote that article was because I remember in 1988, when we went to Olympics, there were only 6 Kenyan women in the team, only 6, but the rest of the team was men.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then that trend kind of continues. And later on, I discover, or I start thinking as an adult, like, wait a minute. This is the question, if the mothers who give birth to us men in Kenya are women, and they give birth to these legends, to these champions, how come our sisters can't do the same? Why? And we are born by the same mothers. And I wrote that article, I sent it, and I got a lot of reviews from a lot of people. It's like, you hit the nail on the head, you hit the nail on the head. And I think since then, Kenya actually in 2008 took more women to the Olympics. And let me tell you something, actually now women are doing better than men if you count the medals that come back to Kenya every championship, whether it's a world championship or it is now a fact. They are just as talented as the men. So that's the God.
Wow. I think that's very powerful to see how such a small thing and such a small observation of how gender disparity was happening in athletics. And then you wrote about it and actually something changed, and look at the results. So I think whoever is listening out there, it doesn't have to be one thing in gender. Maybe there's something that you have observed, just speak it out. Maybe everybody's thinking it, but no one is writing it, or it hasn't come to somebody's forehead, or until you mention it. So Paul, when you finished Starehe, let me go back to Starehe. What did you do after that? I know you mentioned that you got a scholarship, but I just wanted to know, what did you scored all A's, you had done very well. Did you immediately come to the I don't know which country you came to. Was it the US, or what happened right after high school?
Yeah. First of all, like, you know, you grew up in a situation whereby you're looking at, and as you grow as a person, you start taking a look at yourself and taking a look at your surrounding and taking a look at your community. And then I realized, well, I don't have a father. My mom is struggling. I am now the man. I have to do something about this situation. So the first thing was like, I thought like, to me as a kid, you know, a young person that time, the best thing is to get a job. Actually, I didn't even want to go to university. I thought like the best thing is like get a job immediately after high school. Just like deviate, go to the job industry, you know, and forget about college or you know, education. So I pursued ways of getting a job. I got a job with Kenya Post and Telecommunication. And they looked at my grade from high school. Oh, this guy is so sharp. He could have gone to university, but he wants a job. Okay, we give him a job as a postal, call them postal officer, which is the starting level, and then you maybe eventually become a postmaster in some, you know, small station. And I was posted in Nakuru immediately out of high school. I think I completed high school in November. In April or May, I got a job and I was sent to the following year. I got a job and I went to Nakuru. So working in Nakuru, I was there for like 6 months. And I realized I knew everything. And then one day I was actually there and I was invited by the postmaster to go to his office. And I looked at their office. It's bigger than where we were. It's got a red carpet. There's a lady with a typewriter that ushers you in, and you have a nice sofa set. And I'm told to sit there, and I'm sitting there waiting for the postmaster himself to come and welcome me to his office. He does, and I walk in there, and I sit, and I look, and he's talking to me. He's sitting in a big, nice chair, swinging. And I'm like, I went back, and I had a friend called Jeriot, and asked Jeriot a question in the evening. We used to be roommates or housemates, and asked Jeriot, do you know Mr. Lel? That was the postmaster. He said, yeah, I know Mr. Lel. And I asked him another question. I said, do you know what education level Mr. Lel attained? He said, well, I know he went to university. He went to University of Nairobi. I say, hi. Do you know something? We cannot become like Mr. Lel until you go to university. And that was 1986, about November. Then in December, I got a letter. Supposedly I'm going now to be trained as a postmaster, you know, guys who can become a postmaster. Then I was sent to Nairobi Training School in Kileleshwa. Then I was there for 6 months. And when I was there, there was another young guy who was an athlete, a very good athlete, by the name of Mika Boynet. And Mika was sought by all the colleges, and he was my friend. So Mika called me and said, let's come, and there's a guy from America coming, he wants to talk to me. He wants to take me to the US. I said, okay. So I went there and I sat down, and the coach is talking to Mika and I'm listening. And then eventually we are done and we are about to leave. And the coach asked me, are you a runner as well? I say, yeah, I am a runner. Say, what do you run? I say, 400 meters. And he asked me, have you completed high school? I say, yes, I've completed high school. Did you do well? I say, I have certificates. I say, can I see them? Then I brought them the following day and I gave it to them. And he said, have you taken SAT? I said, what is that? I don't know what it is. He said, there is an exam called SAT you have to take if you want to go to college. I said, how do you do it? He said, go to America Counseling Center in Nairobi and register. And I said, really? He said, yeah. Okay. Then I decided, since I was in Nairobi, since I was in Kileleshwa doing the training, so I went to the American Education Center and I registered for SAT. And I pursued that avenue and I got a scholarship 6 months later, by June the following year, I'd got my I-20, and I was bye-bye to post office, because I think if I finish 4 years of college, I'll come back and I'll be Mr. Lel. Then I arrived to UVA, University of Virginia. And I think I was there, very homesick, And Peter and Kip Cheriot drive all the way from Maryland. They drive all the way to Virginia, and they come and talk to me in the dorms.
Wow.
And then that was, I think, November of 1987. And now we are actually talking with Peter, and Kip, I think, was the world record, junior world record holder in 1500. And I know Peter was a world champion in the 5,000 and 1500. And they are talking to me in the dome. And 1 year later, I'm also Olympic champion.
Wow. And that's that video that we watched.
That was 2 years later.
Oh, that was 2 years later.
That was 2 years.
Wow.
That was 89.
So let me also ask, when you got your gig to write for Standard, were you still in high school? How did you also get that? Looks like you had a very entrepreneurial spirit from the very beginning.
No, when I was writing, I was actually here. When I was actually in the US, and that's like that avenue of thinking widely, open, Then I'm like, we need to give the girls. And then also the girls back home have to change their attitude, They have to go and get it. They have to do it. They are just as good as the men, So nothing should hamper them. When they're in high school, they're just as good as the guys. They just have to, if it's playing, if he's throwing something, I'm sure they can throw better. If they can kick something, they can kick something better. If they can move their body, they can move it quicker. So there is really nothing that can stop them from moving, from thinking, from doing everything. So women can do the same thing men can do in any avenue in their level.
Janet, I wanted to ask Paul, Paul, you went back a little bit, I think you touched a little bit about it, about growing up. You told us that you lost your father when you were still young. You had a very small family, that is your mother, your siblings, and your uncle. Was growing up, going to school, pengine watu wengine wataona waseme, pengine huyu alipata bahati ama. Was it very difficult going to school? What are some of the challenges? Kwa sababu kuna wanafunzi wengi wako huko nyumbani wanakaa wanaangalia juu wanasema, okay, forget about it. What kept you going, not having a father? Is that why you went to Starehe Boys? Saa zingine wanasema Starehe Boys ni shule ya kusaidia watu ama, how was it? Just tell us a little bit about it, alafu ndio uendelee.
I think to just even before I go to the details, I think Starehe inasaidia wale wanajisaidia.
I like that.
Okay.
Starehe does not just haiwezi kuokota watu na kusaidia. Starehe inasaidia ule anajisaidia kwanza. You have to help yourself first, then you get the help. So I told you that my dad used to work within the school. He was one of the security guy. In Kenya, they call them watchmen. So I stayed within the school compound until even when he died, we were still there. And I was the friend of all the teachers. And
where was he? Was he at Starehe?
No. The primary school.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He was in the primary school there. So when he passed on, so I still remained there, and I grew up in around that primary school. So I was the guy within the compound who never ran away, ran home, or whatever it is. I just walked to the class. When the bell rings, then I appear. So I'm the guy who read all the books in the library there, and knew what was going on.
Wow. Before that, I wanted to just say, go ahead, Balozi.
No, go ahead. He has answered my question. It's your turn. Continue.
Okay, yeah, I know Paul said something very important about women. And for me, who's very passionate about women empowerment and women doing, having the opportunity and just women changing their minds. Kama venye Paul amesema, anything that a man can do, they say a woman can do better. So yes, a woman can do even better. So I hope mmesikia from Paul, mmesikia from me, and I'm sure many other people will tell you the same. But for our boy child as well, atuachi nyuma, we are not saying you're weak. We want you to exploit your potential. The potential of women had been ignored for a very long time, but we're now getting there. But we don't want to leave the men behind. So tusiachwe pia. Yeah. I think Balozi unaweza endelea.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Thank you, Paul. Osea, kabla hatujaendelea, you know, I still see people following before I ask Paul my set of questions. I see Fred Chirchir following, I don't know from where, Bondeni, karibu. Joshua Boit from India, anasema anatoka upande wa Cherang'any, home of the champion. I'm proud of you, Olympian, watching from India. My questions, are you planning to set up a training place in Cherang'any? That is a question from Boit, kutoka upande wa India. Nafikiria you will team up with him. And then I see Precious watching from Dubai. Alafu, Osea, I don't know who else you are seeing there. I see Jonah Koech following well. My coach, nafikiria Jonah Koech ni mwanafunzi wako. You used to coach him. He's also following. Osea, I don't know who you are seeing on your side.
Balozi on my end. Gilbert Kipto watching from Toronto, Canada. Asante sana, Gilbert Kipto. Edna Simmons joining you from Kansas. Greeting to you all and thanks for the show. Edna, she used to play for Kenya team for a very long time. She used to play volleyball. At some stage, she became a Kenyan coach, and she's following us from Kansas. Thank you, Edna. Asante sana. The Bija Precious watching from Thika. We still have a quite number of people following us tonight. On this, thank you, members. Let's keep sharing. Let's keep liking. Alfred Koech Sajing following live from Western Australia. Thank you, people from Western Australia. Lydia Tentowa watching from Lake Bogoria Resort, Baringo County. Asante sana, Baringo County. Mary Amama all the way from Ohio. Asante sana. CEO of For Change Isubet all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Ak biik chechang chetukosubet eng kemboutab rani kotikelaikan kotikeshare naona wakimbiaji athletes from different parts of the country. Omwawech ole omnyeno pia na utuambie penye umekutana na coach nekitindoi eng betutab rani. Kama wewe amekuwa nini, utuambie tu ile isubet imnyeno eng kemboutab rani. Asanteni. Let's keep sharing. Let's keep learning. Let's organize watch party for other people to get an opportunity to learn a lot from Paul Ereng. Karibu.
Thank you, Asanteni. Thank you for following. I see William Mutai following from Columbus, Ohio. I see Eric Kirwa, Laikipia County. I see Lewi Chemwei following. Danny Kandie following. Asanteni kwa nyinyi yote. So just share and like it. You know, share and like it. Asanteni and karibu. Our guest is Paul Ereng, the Olympic champion in 1988. So tumefika. Karibu sana Paul. Paul, we followed you. So umetoka kule Cherang'any, umeenda Nairobi, umefanya post office, umekuja all the way. Tumekupata Marekani. Umekuja, you've gone to University of West Virginia. So ulipokuwa University of
Virginia.
University of Virginia. Sorry, I'm just giving you West Virginia, but University of Virginia. University of Virginia. So Paul, kwa kusema West Virginia, najua those are two different states. Paul, you became an international athlete while in college. Umefika hapo, you were able, you know, my question would be, how are you able to balance maneno ya shule and being an international athlete? You know, how are you training at that level? You know, will you train wapi when you got into the Olympic team? Did you train in the US? Did you go to Kenya? And how are you able to balance sports and education for our followers? Ereng.
Before Ereng, I just wanted to explain what UVA is. I have worked, it's a very top school here in the US, and I have worked with a couple of people. So it takes really high, very high bar and produces very high quality students. So kwa wenye hawajui, UVA very competitive academically, and now we see Paul also competing internationally as an athlete. So back to Balozi's question, how are you able to balance those two?
Yeah, one of the most important things about discipline, and then the other one is scheduling, working on your schedule. So you can only train just this number of hours a day, and the rest of the day you do your schoolwork. Training doesn't take long. It takes about 2 hours a day for you to get your training done. And then you have the other 6 hours to go to school or in a day. And, so when I came to Virginia, I was a student athlete. I became a student athlete who, you just schedule like every other student to go to class. And then from 3 to 5, you have a training schedule. And then after 5 o'clock, you go back, get yourself ready to go for dinner, and then study hall, and then library, and get your work done and submit in the morning when classes start again. So that's how the program worked. And in Kenya, I had never really been with a coach that, like I have a training schedule. The first time I had a coach was when I came to the US. The first time I had a program that this is how you train is when I came to the US. So, and that program, I adapted to it really quickly, and the improvement was enormous. So within a year, everything started happening in athletics and people start seeing it. So that's what happened my first year. And then after that, won the Olympics, and then a few months after winning the Olympics, set the world record again, running indoors. And then the thing I was thinking was that, it's very easy to get sidetracked by all this fame and then drop out of school. It's very easy, especially when it comes to a point where you start making some money. You say, well, I'm doing well in financially, and I can actually, I don't really care about, because you become lazy. I don't really care to push education. Education is very important as such, keep on doing it. So I decided actually after my second year in college that there was some sponsorship that was coming through athletics. And I decided I can take that sponsorship and still pay for my tuition fee and everything and continue with UVA until I graduate. And I did that. So everything is about scheduling and discipline and vision on what you want to do, long-term, medium-term, and long-term, short-term, medium, and long-term eventually. So those are the things that ran in my mind. There was a question that came, I think, from country back, and maybe my village mate who is somewhere in India, that about whether I should start a camp in Cherangani. That's an easy thing. It's not difficult. Sending the camp is not a hard thing. I think let's actually push more on education. Athletics is still there. It's not a difficult thing. Let's push on education, because when these kids are educated and they are very well in academic, they can be able to figure out things and they can be able to equalize with anybody else anywhere in the world.
All right, thank you, Paul. So Paul, umekuwa sasa an international athlete ukiwa UVA. And I like the fact that, it got to a point after the Olympics, you had to choose between continuing or turning pro, and you turn professional and continued. The more important thing that people need to know is you chose to turn professional and did not quit school. So you continued school. And I was in the same level too. After finishing, you get a lot of people telling you, why should you go back to school? I chose to continue my education because I was a sophomore at the same time as you as well. So Paul, you've gotten to this international level, ukiwa shule. Here you are a scholar, you are a great athlete, you are a celebrity in college. My question would be, how are you able to balance the celebrity and all this, being able to travel and managing all these things? And my question again would be, what countries have you not been to? Because I know umeenda nchi mingi, so the question would be, what countries haven't you been? Kwa sababu umeenda mingi. Sitauliza umeenda nchi gani, lakini ndauliza ni nchi gani haujaenda, Paul.
The issue of balancing is your life is about the attitude, and you really simply have to take a look around you and see the people that are successful that around you are interacting with. So the issue, I mean, not going to school just because you got some money does not really help you. You need to go to school. You need to go to school because you widen your scope of thinking. You widen your scope of trying to make decisions than money. Money does not do anything. I mean, money can help you live in a nice place, and but still you'll be uninformed. I don't want to use the word ignorant, but I say uninformed. And on the other hand, I'm not a scholar as such, but I'm literate. I'm not a scholar. If I was a scholar, possibly I would be teaching and writing books and stuff like that, which I should be doing maybe. Okay. So you have to look at that and say, where do I belong? I have this opportunity, I have this, then I need to do this. So, hey, I think I have to finish this school. It is kind of tedious work, but I have to sit there and finish. Discipline, okay? Now, even anything you do, you got to have discipline. Education, you want to sit in class and pass classes, you have to have discipline. If you want to be a very good farmer, you have to have discipline. If you want to be a very good parent, you have to have discipline. If you want to be a good husband, have discipline. If you want to be a good mother, the same thing. Discipline, discipline, discipline.
Thank you, Paul. Asante sana kwa, those who are following us. Hosea, we want to come to you so that you can ask your question. But before, yeah.
I have a question for Paul. So I'm just curious, you're well-traveled, and I love traveling a lot. What has been your perspective of the world from all these experiences? Or what do you think has been impacted in you? Or what have you seen that you think you can share with us?
And what is your favorite country, Paul, of all the countries you've been to?
Yeah.
Well, what I want to share with people is that please, even if you don't get a chance to travel outside, let's say, because this podcast is about Kenya, visit the neighboring county, the neighboring, region. Move out of where you are from, where you're living, If you are predominantly coming from Turkana, find out how people in Nandi live, find out how people in Kisumu live, go all the way to Mombasa, go all the way to Northeastern, and figure out diversity, okay? Diversify and get mysticism out of your mind. Meet everybody at their own comfortable zone and be part of their culture and listen to it and look at it. And then you will find out, actually, we do things just a little bit different, but we are the same. Advancement, this is a technological advancement, is not just because, it makes you a different person. You're just the same human being. We're all human beings. You have to know that. Some have more resources than others. You have to know that, but our thinking is fundamentally the same. Whether you are living in, it's just the the environment that you're living in that makes the difference. And I always tell people don't know this, but if I look good, if I'm doing real well, my neighbor would also look good. My neighbor will do the same. I wouldn't be one. I don't want to be the guy who is a millionaire among the poor people. I don't want to be that. It's better to live in a place whereby everybody can be able to push and pull, you know, whether it's a girl or a man or an old woman or an old man, each one of us has some contribution to do or to make in that community. When one person is doing well, the schools in that area will improve, because you know why? I'll decide, you know, I want my kids to go to a good school. What can we do? We need to do something about this school. What about the small dispensary? We need to improve that dispensary, because so that our people don't have to go very far. They can be able to access medicine day and night. If something happens in the middle of the night, they can be able to call somebody. And that's, you know, we need a doctor nearby. And then, you know, how do we get there? We need the road to be better. Let's improve this road so that we can be able to get there quickly. And then now we have this technology whereby you have cell phones, you know, communication, everything is going well. So those are the things that makes us different as people. But some people, some places that develop, you know, you prefer there because there are resources that are available compared to the other places where we're struggling. And let me go back, you know, Janet had, you know, moved from California all the way to Florida. There were reasons why she did that, and she find that habitat much better for her. And that's how human beings, we work hard so that at least you get, you know, you're able to be comfortable where you are. And I see, I look at what's going on sometimes in Kenya athletics, and I see we have a lot of athletes actually that we're able only to take 3 per event to the Olympics or World Championship or whichever, whatever, okay? And then the rest are also as good as those ones, okay? Now, I don't mind. Let me say this very clearly, and whoever, you know, I'm going to take the wrath of those people who oppose that. I don't mind a Kenyan athlete going and running for Uganda or a Kenyan athlete running for Tanzania if that is going to make, you know, their home a better place. Or he's running for Qatar or Bahrain or Saudi Arabia or Dubai or Afghanistan or, you know, Pakistan, whatever it is, or Russia, okay? I don't mind that. Because if you're a lawyer, nobody's going to buy you from practicing law in Russia. There's nobody who is going to buy you for being a lawyer in Sydney or an architect or a doctor or whatever, right? Isn't that a talent? It's a talent, right? So running is a talent. Medicine is, you know, kipawa umepewa na Mungu, kipaji, yeah? Kwa hivyo kwa nini isitumike pale inaweza kutumika? My favorite country in Europe was Switzerland. I like tranquility. I like nature. I like green places. I love Eldoret. I love Cherangani. That's why I still have a little farm in Cherangani.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. You spoke of your favorite country being Switzerland. I love Switzerland as well. It's my favorite country in the world. I love a place called Interlaken in Switzerland. So, you know, I love seeing the clean water all the way to the bottom. And obviously, I love Nandi County. So, asante, you know. So, tuende upande wa Osea, just let us know who is following. I see a question from Joshua Boit again. Pale lakini we'll touch on that, but Osea, let us know who is following and then ask your question, Osea.
Okay. Thank you, Balozi. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, our guest, Paul Ereng, and our followers. We truly appreciate you. Sacrifice a lot to follow us, both in Facebook and in YouTube. We thank you, Jonah, a very interesting comment. Always proud of coach. He is not only a coach, father. Thank you, Jonah. Mary, My workmate in post office Nakuru, asante sana. Workmate wa Paul Ereng in Nakuru, asante sana. Chemogos Joel Cheruyat, following, asante sana. Chemogos, wherever you are, asante sana. Mzee Willy, asante Eric, asante Levis Chemore, following. Asante sana. And many people who are following us, let's keep sharing, let's keep asking. If you still have any question, you can write there, and then if our guest get an opportunity, maybe he can answer later on. Asante Paul, as at least safari yako ni mbali, starting from Cherangani to Starehe. At the moment you are in US. My question is in regards to how many years did you get an opportunity to represent Kenya as an in Olympic? How many years in total? And maybe in connection to that, at that years for you to qualify to represent Kenya, how was the selections of athletes who will go and represent our country in an Olympic? Karibu.
Yes, thank you. Good question. I was able to represent Kenya twice, 1988 and 1992 Olympics. Meanwhile, competing at the international circuit during all that in between. I was also, there was also in the championship that I was able to represent Kenya in 89 and then 92 as well. 91.
Asante sana. It looked like there is a challenge. Okay.
Sorry about that. There was another interruption a little bit. Anyway, so I was I was able to represent Kenya in 88 up to 92. Selection wise has not changed. It's still, we're trying to find the best format. We're still looking for the best format. We've been looking for it for the last 50 years. We are not there yet. We are almost there, but we're not there yet. The reason being, there is always controversy in our selection. There was controversy then. There is controversy still there now. I was in a standby after being selected in the team in 1988. I was on standby until the last minute. I found out I ended up being in the team, and that's the most nerve-wracking experience a young athlete goes through, when you really don't know what will happen tomorrow, but you are being told there is a possibility. You've already met the team. You came. They said, we are selecting the team. This is the criteria. You certify that, but then there's a caveat that comes up. And you try to argue, and there is no you can't argue. It's not that you lack a good argument, but you do, but it is going to the deaf ears. That's the problem that has been going on. It went on, since the conception of Athletic Kenya. It's still there.
So thank you, Paul. I don't know if you still have another question, or sir.
Okay, thank you, Paul. You have quite. It's so worrying. If that was a problem, that's 20 to 30 years and still the same problem. Another question in regards to probably in Kenya, you mentioned something about like if you have any potential to run, maybe put in Kenya, and if you got an opportunity to run here in Australia, there is a car you manage. You didn't even. He qualified for 800 meters in the recent concluded Olympic, but the car is, even Australians now, they are now valuing us because of that car is originally from Sudan. Na aka perform too, but ukiona hapa the dynamics is changing kwa ground, mambo imekuwa tofauti. So what's your message if you probably, we have a lot of athletes in Kenya that they don't manage actually to, like in connection with what Joshua has asked, tuko na ma athletes enye wawezi kuqualify hiyo ma big races, and probably in the process wakijaribu kwenda kuchangol, you find this process is really difficult. Unapata sengine ma depression inawamaliza along the process. What can we do probably because we have been there for a long time, our athlete na hawawezi qualify today, because election kwa Kenya pale ni ngumu. Ukienda hiyo selection ya kuselect, it's very difficult. Tunaweza maybe hiyo mtu asipopata. What's your message kwa our athletes na hawawezi kukata team at that time as a way of encouraging them wasikuve moyo?
Yeah, we still have a problem because nowadays the IAAF, the International Athletic Federation, is actually made of all these federations. Kenya is a member. And the laws that are set by this, the IAAF is actually comes from those members. The members decide to set those laws. So let's get out of athletics and look at sports like soccer. How many Brazil explores their soccer talents, and where do the Brazilian soccer athletes play? They play where the games are played mostly in Europe, yeah? Big time. All those clubs in Europe, the Brazilian athletes are there, soccer players. You have a lot of people in baseball coming from South America, and they're playing in the American League. Our biggest problem is the laws that are set and our federation not actually fighting for the athletes at a higher level. So we set laws whereby it becomes difficult if that athlete you're talking about that could not make the team, but was number 4, that maybe did not have a good day, cannot be able to run for Bahrain or Qatar, or anybody who wants an athlete, like maybe Australia. Nowadays, the laws of you becoming a citizen to be able to run for another country is actually now, it's not even the country taking the regular process of making you a citizen so that you can be able to compete for them. But now you get, first of all, banned a little bit first by your own country. So that's what I'm wondering, like, what kind of profession is that? Whereby, would it be, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in a sense that Kenya has an association of lawyers. They have, association of architects and doctors and all that. But when one Kenyan qualifies a doctor to work in Britain, there's no hampering, like stopping him from becoming a doctor there because, he has to work for Kenya first to become a doctor so that we can allow him to go there. All right. So what is going on? There's exploitation then, where their athletes are being exploited. And why are they being exploited? Maybe they don't speak up, and that's why maybe when we have athletes who are lawyers, who are doctors, whatever, they should actually speak up and they cut all these pitfalls and bottlenecks that somebody's creating and hurdles that are being created to stop them from exploring their talent when they're able to do it. Because the thing about athletics is that you can only explore this talent in a short period of time. If somebody cuts you off 1 year, twice, then you are dead and you're done. And you live to regret the rest of your life that somebody did something wrong for you or to you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. In support of what you say, Paul, I'm also in support of athletes representing or running for other countries. I advocate for that. And I support that because of what you just said. Kwa nini a lawyer akitoka Kenya aenda afanya law Britain, it's okay. Kwa nini a doctor akitoka Kenya ama any other country aende huko Marekani na kuwe daktari, it's not a problem. And when an athlete, track athlete goes and wants to run for another country, it's a problem. When it's not a problem for a soccer player, like you said, acheze njingine. So I'm in support, total support of what you just said. My question, Paul, is the Olympics just concluded in Tokyo. And then after the Tokyo Games, we had the under 20 ambayo ilifanyika upande wa Kenya, and pongezi Kenya kwa sababu they did a very successful event in Nairobi. You are a coach at UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. Did you have any athlete in Tokyo, and how did they do? Ama ulikuwa na wachezaji pale, and how did you see the Olympics in Tokyo with the COVID, of course, Paul?
Yeah, you know, we try to create, you know, you try to make lemonade when somebody gives you, gives you someone a lemon, you know. So Japan was given a lemon, and since they couldn't eat it the way it is, they had to make lemonade out of it. They could not hold the Olympics in 2020. They had to postpone. And in 2021, the pandemic had not subsided. It was still there. So they created something, and they did the best, and I think it was successful. Yeah, I can say that. Financially, I think they lost because of all those, you know, things they had put in place. And then, you know, they couldn't get visitors and all that. So that was a catastrophe. They couldn't do anything about it. But the athletes delivered. The athletes went there and they delivered even with the empty stadium. With regard to the athletes, I had two of them in the 800, my event. One go to the semi-final, the other one go to the final and won the gold medal. I have two young men that are here in America in this university. Emmanuel Korir, who is the current Olympic champion, 800, and Michael Saruni, who managed to get to the semi-final and he got eliminated, but he was the winner of the Kenyan trials. And Emmanuel was third in the trial. And this is why sometimes, you know, this idea of saying, oh, we wait, and then, you know, number 1 and 2 are automatic, number 3 does not. Timothy Cheruiyot got a silver. He was number 4. But he was the dominant guy throughout the Grand Prix, and he's the current champion and all that. But there was a guy who was number 2 who could not get in because of some inefficiency somewhere. But I take what I was issued with, and that's getting to the semi-final with one guy and the medal in the other one.
Pongezi, Paul. Yeah, pongezi. And I feel terrible that you did not get to go and watch your athletes. So kijana wako alishinda gold kwa same event ambayo ulishinda, and that tells us more about what kind of a coach you are, of course. So tunashukuru sana kijana wako ambaye alishinda kule Tokyo. So for our followers, anybody watching, kijana mwenye alishinda hiyo gold huko Tokyo is ni kijana wa Paul Ereng ambaye anamcoach. So we congratulate you for having him win a gold medal. So tunataka turudi mpaka upande wa Marekani, alafu ndio tupate Janet aulize swali yake. Janet.
Yeah, before I even go to that, I just want to congratulate Paul for, you know, the work you have done, the work you did, and the potential that you see. And I want to just play a short clip of you in 1988. Maybe Osea once, Emmanuel Korir, pongezi sana on your gold medal. Keep it up, keep it up. Yeah. So I wanted to share this. This was the 1988 Olympics, which Paul alikuwa ameambiwa ngoja kidogo, and then we will see. But look at him, he won, I guess, let's watch.
Very first time, the bend to be run in lanes that they break in the back straight. And they've gone tearing away. Kiprotich and Barbosa. And there's going to be a battle for the lead here. And sure enough, Awita is back in 8th place. Has to throttle back. And the time at the bell inside 50, 49.5. Very, very quick indeed. Elliott stretching through in 4th place. Following Cruz, Barbosa, Brazil. Kiprotich in 2nd place. Then Joachim Cruz, the reigning champion. Peter Elliott, the World Championship silver medal. Peter Elliott goes with them. He's in 3rd place. And Peter Elliott attacking on the outside. Cruz looks to see who it is. It's Elliott, but he went the long way round. Awita now. Cruz and Elliott. And on the inside, storming through is Eric. Eric the Kenyan has come right from nowhere. Eric, the unknown Kenyan, comes through to win it. Cruz 2nd, Awita 3rd, Elliott 4, Craig 5, Barbosa 6, Sophia 7, and Kiprotich in 8th place. Eric, who was last at the bell, comes through to be first on the tape. 1:43.45, a superb run. And
So that was Ereng, and I share this so we know the potential we are losing when we deny athletes. And I hope venye Paul amesema, our athletics Kenya Federation will really do something about this. Na venye wamesema, I also support, let people find opportunities wherever they are, and wakimbilie hizo nchi. Wakikuja at the end of the day zinakuja nyumbani. So congratulations, Paul, again for then and for now. We see your fruit still bearing on. My question, Paul, was, so as a coach, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, you're very, I guess, an elite coach, training somebody who wins the Olympics. So how do you go about your recruitment process? I'm sure a lot of people are wondering or asking, do you yourself go to recruit these athletes from Kenya, or how do you manage that?
Yes,
And
good
also,
question.
do you give them scholarships, or what is your package like?
Yes, good thing, Janet. Good question. I do recruit. I go to Kenya yearly, every June, at least, maybe sometimes December on my own, but at least I go there to try to recruit. The stipulations or majority of bringing the students to the US is very stringent. And they have to be an athlete first, or they have to be a student, a good student, and then an athlete. A good student nowadays, because there is what they call a clearinghouse, eligibility clearinghouse, where they check their high school performance or grades. And they monitor, actually, they want their transcript from high school all the way from Form 1 to Form 4, plus the KCSE, plus the SAT. And then on top of that, since they are issued this scholarship, they have to be at least runners, a good runner. And so those are the things that I have to balance and, bring them. So when I think like one has a potential, I've always gone there and taken a look at them again and make analysis and say, I think this one will do something. I recruit a lot of kids on potential. I'm lucky I got Emmanuel and the other young man, Michael Saruni, who at least had some statistics. The biggest problem in Kenya, there is no statistics. It's very hard to figure out like, what had this kid done in the past in terms of running. There's nothing. So you have to be very intuitive and figure out and see this person and talk to them and visit with them and sometimes maybe watch what they're doing, and then you make a decision. I have, since I came here, I've been here now, I've worked here at the university for the last 18 years. And let me go back a little bit just so that people can get a...
Paul, as you continue, sorry to cut you.
Okay.
Do you only look at them if they are good runners, ama you unataka uone what kind of a person they are, so that ule mwanafunzi anakaa pale, lazima, unataka you want to create an all-rounded person. Do you also look at their character, or unaangalia kama yeye good athlete? Endelea.
Yeah, that's why I said you have to meet them and talk to them and try to figure out. And then the biggest problem is lack of statistics of knowing how these people are. Character, and I said again before that, discipline. If you can be able to figure out and get somebody with discipline and character, then you are done. Now, in athletics, there are two things. Someone who comes with the attitude into the program, and somebody who comes to the program with quest to learn, with quest to listen and learn. So you'll always, character is the key. I mean, in life, in success, for someone to succeed, you have to have this character person going forward. Someone who is able to measure things. This is I can take this today, I can shut this out today. So those are individuals, those are personal, those are the characters you're looking for, okay? Not just about running, I don't care. I mean, like you can have somebody who is running, but that person does not fit into the group. So you don't want that to deal with that. You don't want it, there's no need of dealing with that. Now, let me go back a little about student answering Janet's question. Janet, first of all, there is a lot of athletes there in Kenya that don't qualify to come to university. At the same time, that does not open doors for them to get into this good coaching, you know. Peter will tell you, Peter was actually a very good elite athlete while in Kenya when he was still in high school. But I'm sure Peter will always tell you, it was better I came to the US. Regardless of my success in Kenya, what I gained, what Peter gained when he came to the US, transcend everything that he did, what he came with from back home. Because he got the support system that is clear, this is what you're supposed to do, and it helps him, without any reservation, they help him, and everything is on the table. Like they tell you, this is your scholarship, this is what the person, this is how your scholarship does for you. And then, but then you can do things for yourself from that. You use that, becomes a stepping stone for you to get somewhere. So there's a lot of kids who are very good runners, but they don't get to explore, they don't get to enjoy these immense facilities that are available for them. That's not, the big part. Secondly, there are those who are good, but now the other hurdle that they have to pass through now is becoming the American embassy in Kenya. American embassy in Kenya deny them visas to come. For example, I just had like 5 kids that we issued full scholarships, and none of them went through the embassy.
Sad.
The reasons, I have no idea, okay? The reason, I have no idea. We got letters actually from the university and some people, and they sent it to the embassy. And the embassy invited them for the interview, and then they denied them the visas.
You're on mute,
You are mute.
Say something to the embassy, Paul, if they can listen, because these are students that have been issued or they have been given or awarded full scholarships.
Yes.
Based on what you are. So we are humbly requesting the American embassy to consider students who got full scholarship like that. And, Paul is an example, and myself, that, we are able to know that such and such student would probably qualify. I don't think Paul would just go choosing a student who is not going to make it at UTEP. So if there is an appeal you can make, Paul, what is it?
Yeah, we've vetted this. We have invested actual time to vet these kids. We're not just bringing any kid to the US, all right? We bring the kids who are qualified. So for somebody to go and ask the kid about how many civil rights groups they know in Kenya, about Kenya, is out of this world, because I don't see how that helps that kid to get a scholarship. First of all, what the embassy has created in Kenya is fear for this kid. The kids go to the embassy shaking. They're afraid. They don't even know how, they can't even speak up. They can't become tongue-tied. A lot of kids do that. And then especially those who come, actually, they are very good students. They're very humble. They come from up country. This is maybe the first time they're speaking with a white person. And there is accent issue. So those who get actually denied are mostly those, those who are actually very good students, but they are just humble. They are coming from the up country. There are those who come from the cities. They get scholarship. They can talk their way out. But they don't perform like those who we throw away. So the embassy has to know that.
Thank you, Paul. Janet, I don't know if you still have any other question or we continue. Or Sarah, we still following us, and then if you have a question.
Yes. And then a quick question in regards to we recently conclude kuna hii Paralympic inaendelea. Nimeona statistically of most of the countries and wali participate Paul. Naona China, they are leading. Our lovely country, our motherland is we are number 78 in Paralympic Kenya. So you find a country like Rwanda. Rwanda is ahead of Kenya in Paralympic with a lot of. What's the problem in regards to Paralympic? Why Kenya when it comes to the Paralympic? You can add on that as we progress on the issue of Paralympic. Because we have a lot of people in Kenya, people living with disability, but it looks like when it comes even to participation in sport, you don't see them appearing. And within my country, like Australia here, they are shining. They are number 8 globally in, with around 21 medals, 29. So what's the problem?
You see, when you talk about Paralympics, you get a lot of maybe people with physical challenges. And so there is diversity now in this Western world and an investment to be able to let those people access whatever they need, whether it's in sports and everything. There is a lot of actually access for them that we're still missing. I know Kenya has done well before in those games, but we're still behind because we don't have the program that helps or are able to give them the same access as the other athletes who are doing things. You see, like, let's say even the regular Olympics, there is really no program in Kenya. There is no program in Kenya that is actually targeting the young people to succeed. It is their own self efforts by themselves that are able to bring them up. We always see an athlete coming in Kenya and then all of a sudden exploding and becoming an international. But we have no, there is no foundation that has been set somewhere. It's like we are following, we had this group, there was this kid came from this organization that was organized like this. No, there's nothing like that. Where is it? It doesn't exist. So it is a self-effort. You see a lot of marathon runners coming up. But there's no program that is set there for them by anybody. There's no support system, nothing. It is self-determination and sheer sweat.
So Paul, in addition to that, I guess, like you said, it is self-support program. Unakuta sasa programs kama which were initiated by individuals. Watu kama Patrick Sang, alikuja akaanzisha private camp yake, alafu and then he recruited some athletes. Lakini the federation, most of the time, are not able to do it, apart from institutions kama military, police. But other than that, the support system is what is lacking, is what probably you are, I hear you saying, Paul.
Yeah, and then now, maybe if police has that Paralympics team, maybe police has one, maybe prison has another one, then all of a sudden, we'll have a team that is actually supported. Because if Kenya Police, Kenya Army, they have a team just like the way they're having the regular team, then we'll have the Paralympic team actually doing well as well. Correct?
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Osea, I don't know if you still have people following us before I go to the next question.
I still have one question,
Yes.
Balozi, maybe before Hosea. So you've mentioned, Paul, one of the biggest challenges is getting visas, and I know it breaks my heart for sure to see people being denied potential, but it's a whole conversation on how we need to, balance all these visa issues and
Hello?
just the inequity in it throughout the world.
Chamge.
Throughout the world. So what are some of the other challenges that you face as an international coach and also as a coach, Kenyan, working at an international institution? And what would you tell some of the athletes? And you also mentioned about your package. I was just thinking back and you said there are no statistics. If somebody was to be self-disciplined, since this is all self-driven, what would you want in that statistics? So mwenye anasikia anza kutengeneza this list, so when Paul comes to you, there's this reference point for yourself. I'm somebody who's listening out there. You can just start small and help these kids build these profiles. So Paul, maybe help me out with those questions before we move on.
Yes, a couple of things nowadays. So the challenge that is there is that we are seeing, I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of kids who want to come to the US for athletic scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of those kids actually competed in high school. They never competed in high school. There are very few, like Jonah competed in high school all the way, Emmanuel, for example, competed in high school. Is one of the people that, we're able to get a kid who understands maybe athletics. But a lot of kids that want to come to the US kind of discovered this as an afterthought. And then they've completed high school, and then they have never trained. They decide like, well, maybe there is a camp nearby the village. I can join that camp and start training. And then they start sending emails to the coaches, okay? But also they don't have statistics, but they start cooking numbers also. Like they start telling you, I've run this, but they have not actually, they don't even know what they're talking about. Now, if I tell them, give me 3 events you are running them, that you compete in, give me 3 events that you compete in. They will give me 1, 2, 3. Now, if you give me 1, 2, 3, I can actually compare the 3 and see where that you are not telling the truth, because they don't add up. There's no way you tell me you do this event and you do this event, and then the times in the first event and the second events, all of a sudden it become very, very different. They have nothing in common. So you actually, I see what you're telling me does not side. So I know you're not telling the truth. You've never even done anything about it. I have people, somebody who has sold themselves really, really well. And I say, okay, I'll come and see you what you're doing. Where's your coach? Tell me your coach. What do you guys usually do? They tell me this is their work. And some of them are very smart. They actually write. They figure, I don't know how they figure out. They write to you the program they do. I say, okay, I'll come. And I would like to see what you guys do. Then I go there. The day you go there, either 2 things happen. One, people disappear. They don't never come and see you. They don't appear, okay? The second one, they come with a story, So all those things are there. The good thing about running is this. When you're a runner, you're a runner. When you're a sportsman, you're a sportsman. This is why I was saying, if you can kick something, you kick something. If you can punch somebody, you can punch somebody. If you can throw something, you can throw something. If you can run, you can run. So there is no, forget about talking about, I can do this, I cannot do it. It's really simple as that. Now, there are a lot of kids who actually, they have the talent, but the problem is they are not exposed. And those who are exposed, who know about it, they neglect school. I've always said, if you are a good athlete in your high school, Form 1, Form 2, by the time you get Form 3, if you suspend and focus on, if you suspend about this sport for a period of time, and the reason why I say suspend is because we have no organization. The schools don't know. Those people do not organize the sport properly. It's really simple. If you organize a couple of hours a day to train an athlete and send them back to school, they, to do their homework and their classes and stuff, they will succeed in school and they succeed in running in sports. And that's why it is actually in America, that's why it is. If you look at an American team, they all come from colleges. Yeah, so why can we? I mean, like, our kids are just smart as those ones, but they are not exposed, they are not given the right way, nobody's going the right way. In America, for example, if you're in high school kid and you start getting below C, then they stop you from competing until you bring your grades up. So education and sport, they go hand in hand, they balance each other. And that's why most kids in America go to school and they pay their education through sports. So we lack those things. And people think that I'm just going to send somebody to America as say they're a sportsman, but they're not sportsmen, actually. They don't understand how that thing works. We have to understand where you're going, how you're going to do it, all right? And what is expected of you. So I always tell even some of the athletes who come here, maybe they are still behind, they didn't, I gave them an opportunity. I say, this is how it is. We open the door for you. If I gave you a job as an accountant, please do my accounts properly. Because otherwise, why would I want you to be an accountant and you can't do the accounts? You can't account for my stuff. When you're an auditor, better audit those documents properly. Why should I give you a job as an auditor and you can't audit? Okay? So if you decided that you got a chance to come, please do what you claim you came to do, you can do.
So, so Paul, kuna wanafunzi wengine wanaweza kujaribu kudanganya Paul. You're trying to lie to an Olympic champion coach who actually ran and knows. Wengine wanaambianga Paul, I ran 3,000. There is no event as 3,000 meters. So athletes wenye wanawatch huko nyumbani, wengine wanaandikanga, mimi ninakimbia, I ran 1,500, anakimbia 342, alafu ikifika 5,000, anakimbia 1,520. So already...
Ama anasema I ran 1,350.
Yes.
But I ran 835. When you look at 1,350 and 845, all of a sudden there is a big mistake, Apple. Big mistake.
So don't try to, so don't try to, you're trying to cheat ama kudanganya somebody who ran. So usually, what happens if somebody comes and they can't do the accounts ama they can't run? What happens? Paul.
If you don't do that, then they tell you, you know what? It's not working, my friend.
So you lose your scholarship.
You lose your job.
And then when you lose your job, you know what happens? You become out of status. When you become out of status, hautakiwi America. So it's as simple as that. Thank you. So I'm sure a lot of people are following and they always ask us a lot of questions. Monge no say I'm going to take PK Subej and then the next question. Osea.
Thank you, Palosi. Thank you, Paul. And we have a lot of people who are following us in both all our social media platforms. Asanteni sana. Let's keep sharing. Charles Koech, asante sana. Charles Koech, Lelei na kuona. Kaptinge Hilary, asante sana na kuona Poit. Nick, asante sana. Nick Poit, asante Noah Kipto Chepsiror. Arab Chepsiror, asante sana. Mactoni Kiprotich, asante sana. Bruno, asante sana. Bruno, is all the way, basketballer, all the way from Olimba, Western Australia. The Tanui family, the Korir family, is with Emily and Bena Tanui, and our young table tennis Bradley, the family. Tukula asanteni sana kwa kufuatilia show yetu siku ya leo. Agere Jigora from the other side. Selem, Jacqueline Cheruta Selem, asante sana. Ayabei Bridget, asante sana. Gifted Aspel, asante sana kwa kutufuatilia. Ngote keshian, to continue keshian the show ninyo nibabe tutabrani. Karibu Palosi.
As kongoi nye osea kongoi ngakwek tugul Josubech, continue sharing and liking our program. So Paul, tumekufuata, we followed you all the way from Kenya, umekuja, umekuwa coach, umefanya hivi yote, very, very successful things. You become a world record holder, an Olympic champion as an athlete, a scholar. You are a coach now, and you are mentoring some athletes. Some of your athletes, you are able to send 2 athletes to go to the Olympics. One of them won gold in your event. Paul, with all these great things that you've done, do you have a family of your own? And, ama tutauliza, are you booked? And if so, uko na watoto? And, tell us about your family, immediate family, Paul.
Yeah, I have a family. I am a happy guy with a family. I brought my family all the way from Kenya, dragged them here. Yeah, I'm happily married. I have 2 daughters and a son, a young son who is in high school. My daughters are about to complete college this year. So it's a very small family in Kenyan sense. It's a big family in American sense. So that's that's how I am. Let me just say something so that people understand about the issue of athletics and scholarship. Once I get you here, if I open the door for you, you are my person. You are my diamond. I have to protect you. If I discover you have a problem, I'll always try to console you and talk to you and tell you this is not working. And we'll share that. I said, I'll give, since I'm the one who opened the door and let you in, and I realize that there is some things that are not working, I'll tell you, please rectify this quickly, So if you've lied to me or you've lied to somebody else and you get a chance and you come here, please wake up. It's not just coming here. It's coming and learning quickly and doing things. There are resources here that can make you succeed. If you really follow and you want to succeed, you will succeed in America. You will succeed. Especially if somebody gave you a scholarship. Because the good thing about scholarship is you don't come here to struggle. You'll be set, you are going to school, everything is paid for, you'll get your stipend, you have, your board and room and the insurance and everything like that. And, so you are not struggling to get this little. Don't get into the pressure of being people telling you now, send us money because you're in America. There is a lot of money. No. You take care of yourself first, then you'll take care of the people back at home after. Just give yourself time and you'll succeed like that. That's what I know. And a lot of kids who come, they come with a different attitude and different mindset. But if they come first, they say, like they have this idea that the first thing is like figure out what am I supposed to do? Why am I there? What am I doing? Then that's a good place to start.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I guess we will go back to Janet to ask a question. Janet, it's your turn to ask a question, Janet.
Yeah. Paul, I have a question. So you are an athlete yourself. You have been successful. You are a successful Olympic champion, world record holder as well. And then you retired. I'm not